Hello everybody, here we are, and let's just simply start working on this website again. Look, what surprisingly this particular feature actually took more time than I expected, because somehow I made it work initially, but that was not the best approach. So I then thought of switching to the better one, and these things ultimately ended up taking a lot of time. But as of right now, let's just simply try to get it done today, and hopefully it's gonna be all right. So what do we need to do over here? Let's right now, if I just simply click outside, it's working fine. We are just unable to move it for some reason. So first of all, let's see exactly what we are doing. If when we click on a shape, set selector shapes ID, initialize selection interaction, ultimately this just simply invalidates, set the values there. So ultimately initial values are set, so let's not worry about it as for right now. Ultimately just expect it to be doing the job, and once this thing is done, if over here we actually click on shift, then this particular thing runs. Otherwise if the selected shapes are greater than 0, then we check the resize handle, and this thing is actually done as well. If we don't really click on any hit shape, then we just get the group bounce. Any group bounce is greater than 0, then get group bounce. If there are still shape ones, that's okay. Once we get the group bounce and is point in selected group bounce, in that case we still have to check the resize handle. That is sort of right as well. We check the resize handle for the group bounce and for the selected shape. Okay, fine. And apart from this particular thing, we are just simply invalidating it from here. If didn't really if clicked on and what not clicked the shape, at that time we are just simply getting the group ID if that exists, and then setting the selected shape IDs and initializing the state. And again that's gonna be a selection state and all. Going ahead, if there are next and there's only one, if there's not group ID at all, that simply means there is only one shape. In that case just simply initializing it again, and lastly initializing it. So yeah, it is sort of getting the job done. The next thing that I have to take care of, that is over here, especially we just call move shapes in here. So the next thing that I need to check, that is whether this is actually being called or not. So just moving, and let's check this thing out. So this moving is definitely getting called. If the moving is getting called, so the next thing is that why, okay, this particular thing is not getting called. In that case this is the not this one, probably this is something that I need to check. Not running. If it is not running, then okay, well, if this is not running, that simply means when I start moving at that time. Let's check out the interaction over here. CLG interaction, here we are. This is still select, got it. So even when we start moving, the type is actually selector, and in that case if I go to this one, it turns out that we are not really changing that here. So the type actually needs to be changed. To do that, pointer reps dot is interaction ref dot current dot type, and that's gonna be set to move right here. Now let's try to move it. So as soon as we start moving it, all the shapes they disappear. There's a lot that we actually have to handle here. So if I'm actually moving any shape, so ultimately all the shapes are being, it is definitely moving, but okay. So as we just simply have the selected shapes, that should be skipped, but we simply draw this. Interesting. So what is actually happening, that as soon as I move something, that just simply disappears, and hope most probably the selected IDs are twice at that time. Not a problem, we can easily figure it out. Let's do one thing. Interaction is gonna be here, right? CLG selected shape which probably just a sec. Why is this disappearing for some reason? I actually made many changes, and the most important thing is that let's go to canvas renderer. Okay, of course here we have many errors, at least one. I have to fix this, and I don't really have time for fixing it alone, like fixing the things one by one. We'll give the overall code to the AI, and hopefully AI will be able to fix it. I don't think we have any errors here when rendering the stuff. Skip ID is this transformation, then we are just simply getting it from here. That is right, or even better use set. So set and this, that is right, not really bad idea at all. So when it comes to skip ID, so earlier we were calculating the skip ID sort of like this. Right now we can easily calculate the skip ID, so let's just simply have this part in here. Skip shape ID, what is the issue? It is actually accept this time, so skip shape ID, that's actually gonna be set string, just like this, and it will always exist. If I have the skip shape ID, in that case we don't really need to create this now anymore. So this skip shape ID has shape.id, then continue. We are if transformation interaction, in that case we are getting all the IDs of the preview shapes, so ultimately all the shapes are included there, and then we are just simply getting the IDs and we are rendering them. And if that is a text, then that's another case altogether. So if text editing instead is there, only that's gonna be the preview shape rendering will be skipped, that's fine. So this particular part is done. Same thing I need to do for this if there are errors, and it turns out okay, so what we are actually trying to do in here, quite interesting. We have this, marquee selection. We are rendering the marquee selection over here. Render few shapes. This shapes, so framed preview shapes. This time when it comes to rendering the shapes over here, your entire renders, it just simply gives us here. I'm not sure whether it will be able to handle this here, because there are around 150 lines of code. Let's see. So frame, this is not used, child IDs are not used, because I've actually removed many things. That is by just simply giving it to the AI right here. Preview shapes, draw, interaction, preview this, fine. If the length is greater than 0, we are going to be rendering the shapes, and then with the, so replace this particular thing with this part. Coming back to this here, we have this draw section in here, and it actually needs to be removed. So preview shapes we are actually getting, and then we are sort of rendering as well. So let's just simply copy it, and we're going to be just simply replacing it here. So we got the preview shapes. Draw, we are getting the preview shapes from the interaction. If that's equals to draw, if that's not equals to draw, that simply means we are going to be getting the preview shapes there. If the length of that is greater than 0, then we are going to be just simply rendering them. So preview shapes ultimately include all the shapes, if I'm not wrong. Yes, that's going to be problematic. Why? We are not really skipping preview shapes, all the selected shapes. That's fine, not a problem. Come back here. Now we are actually able to move it here and there. If we actually have many shapes, this is sort of working fine. We are able to resize it as well. Okay, and what is the next thing that we have to do? That is creating a group around this. So once this is actually grouped one, so we are able to handle this well as well. And lastly, again I can delete it directly. Let's create a frame out of it. So here we are, wrap in a frame. This is how the frame looks like, and we are actually able to move them here and there, and that is good. And we are able to resize the frame as well. We can still move them here and there, and we can just simply select. It's just that we cannot select the shapes separately. It definitely becomes the part of the shape, and if I keep it outside, it is still the part of the shape. That is something we have to fix. So moving something out of the shape, that does not work well, first of all, this thing, and then we have to focus on the layout part. Shape, move shape. Close this, move shapes. This particular part is not working well, if I'm not wrong. Handle shapes, move over the shape. No, this is working fine. Over shape is fine. So ultimately on pointer up, we are having the issue probably. So shape, move, on pointer up. This is not able to handle that. Interesting. So let's see what's wrong with this. So what we are actually doing, that on pointer up, we are actually not able to move it outside, right? So find inside the parent frame, and names, what's there in the shape. Shape definitely has the ID, frame ID, frame ID, frame ID. Absolutely. If it actually has the frame ID, then that's problematic. So as soon as we start moving the shape, it should not have any frame ID at all. So on pointer down, on pointer move, if we actually start dragging, at that time, even if that's gonna be selected shape, but we have to change a few things here. That's they are gonna be we have to update it. So let's do one thing. If there's any selected shape, we have to just remove the frame ID from there. And removing the frame ID means the frame ID what's being used here, the shape that I actually have here, it comes from the next shapes. Next shape that comes from the previous shapes. Previous shape is nothing but the state, so we are playing with the state over here, so we have to change the state directly. Got it? So over here, set state, we don't actually have it here, so we have set shapes. Previous shape. Now the thing is that if they are the previous shapes, that's fine. We have to have the selected shape IDs. We already have them. We have something called selected here. So previous shape dot filter. I'm gonna get the shape here, and if we have to filter based on what, we don't really have to filter this time. Sorry, map shape. Now what do we have to do? We have to remove the frame ID if needed. So if selector has shape.id, in that case dot shape, otherwise we have to just simply return the shape. Apart from this particular thing, this time frame ID should be undefined. Can the frame ID be undefined? Frame ID. Frame shape. There is no frame ID as such. Base shape. Frame ID can actually be null. Still part of that. Interesting. Let's wrap them in a frame. Click again. I cannot click the shapes directly. We have to work on this. Now this is part of that. Move it out. This is still part of that. The list that we have that has the frame ID. Once I click and just move a little bit, if that is the selected one, has the shape ID, in that case I'm not even sure whether it's actually being removed or not. So remove the frame ID, then we have the ellipse, and that's eventually been removed. It has this and 8 4 3 6. So what it actually has, if selected has the shape dot id, selected has different shape id. Okay, what am I missing? That simply means this is never getting true. Selected has the shape id, selected doesn't have the shape id. Selected is what? Nothing but the shapes. Seven D 7CB. So the ellipse that we have, yeah, so this is the ID. Seven CB, the ID is that's fine. So that has the ID. That has the ID means this particular part is running. And as this part runs, selector shape has the ID, then this, otherwise this. So this should be alright, but just after the shape that we are getting, not the parent frame but the shape, that still has this frame ID. That simply means something went missing. In that case, just after that we are calling this inside move shapes. We are getting the, we are not doing one thing. What is that? We are changing the current shapes. How about the previous shapes? Aren't we changing that? Because at the end of the day, preview shapes are just simply changed here once we actually move. So when we actually move, so we actually update everything based on the preview shapes. So at the end of the day, I have to change the ID in the preview shapes. That is the first thing. And the another thing is that changing it inside the shapes, as soon as pointer up actually happens, I just changed it inside the shape, that is for sure. And as I changed this inside the shape, so when I get the shape, that's definitely gonna be, they are gonna be the moved shapes for sure. So we are doing this, and apart from this particular thing, let's try this. We have 4 shapes over here. The last one is the, we even have the text. What? Type text. Probably I got it by mistake. Never mind. So we have this ellipse here, and it has the frame ID. So the ellipse has the frame ID because CLG previous shapes. Let's check this thing out as well. So we have the previous shapes. Let's talk about the ellipse over here. Ellipse frame is set to null. That's great. So the only one problem is here, that is the moved shape that I'm actually getting, that actually has the frame ID. So I have to change this as well. So over here we actually need to change 2 things right here. So one is already being changed, so let's go a few steps back. This should be sort of fine. That is it. It's just simply set it to null. One thing is being done. The second thing that we actually need to do, that is setting it to null in here. That simply means pointer dot current dot not type, just type is not enough. current is gonna be equals to this dot 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 pointer refs dot interaction ref dot current. So this is what we are doing. Type is actually gonna be set to move. So this is the another thing, and once the type is actually set to move, preview shapes, actually all these things are required. Okay, ultimately we need to set more values in here. Before even that, preview shapes is gonna be equals to pointer refs dot. Over here, when we actually start moving, that simply means we already have the value in the pointer refs dot interaction ref dot current dot. We are not getting that. Why? Okay, think about it. When we have the class select, then only we have it. So I can do one thing, that if not, if in the direction dot type is not equals to select, in that case, so type is actually gonna be moved from here onwards. But when it comes to move, we actually have to have many things, but all those things are required inside select. Yes or no? No. Let's check this thing out. So this is the move, this is select, both are exactly the same, so it should not be problematic. As extract from interaction state select. Okay, this seems to be alright, but we are actually doing that. We are just simply saying that this is gonna be actually select state, and we are just simply setting it to this. And apart from this particular thing, we are just simply assigning the type over here, that the type of this particular state is gonna be this. The type is actually gonna be select, and then we are setting it to this. So we'll fix it later. As of right now, let's just simply continue with this. And the next thing that I need to do, that is preview shapes, is gonna be equals to pointer refs dot interaction dot, again the same issue. So const interaction, that's actually gonna be this part in here. That should be fine. Interaction, and then interaction dot preview shapes dot, we have to map, and I'm gonna get the shape, and the same logic is gonna be related the selected if it has the shape dot id. In that case, dot shape frame id, that's actually gonna be null. In the remaining case, I'm gonna be returning this from here. So this should be all right. Yeah, let's try this thing out. So ultimately we are definitely removing the id, so you should not have it. trap in it, draw another one. We have the ellipse over here. Interesting. Ellipse has the frame ID by default, so what the hell? Ellipse gets the frame ID. It feels like it is already on top of that, so we are definitely missing something. Yeah. We are setting this, we are doing this, we are getting the okay. We have the selector shape, we have all the shapes, and we have the preview shapes. So what is missing now? How can you bring this shape? Again, let's just simply figure out the bug using the AI only. I don't have a lot of time. Just simply it's gonna tell me the bug. We spent around 3 days on this same thing. Hopefully it will be able to resolve this. The whole purpose of preview shapes is that nothing in real right now you are modifying the frame ID in the actual store as soon as the drag, so that means cancelling the drag leaves the scene in inconsistent state. I write the select like this. What is the problem here? Right now you are modifying frame ID in the actual store as soon as the drag starts. That means cancelling the drag leaves the scene in an inconsistent state. Undo registry becomes harder to reason about. The scene and preview are no longer clearly separated. Instead of only modifying the preview copy. I change the select like this, so we are just simply modifying it. So this is the, there's no set shapes, we are not really setting that. So ultimately over here, if we just do this, so we are sort of changing the main state, so we are not going to be doing this. Coming back to this, let's try this thing out. Let's make it smaller, wrap them in a selection, get another one. It's already over there on top of that, so this is not working as expected. Let's try this thing out. When we move it out, it still doesn't seem to be working, so it always remains connected. If we draw something, as soon as we move a shape, that automatically becomes the part. So there is something we have to, moving the shape makes the part of it. So the problem is not here, the problem is in this. On pointer up seems to be alright. Let me see, because it's just been written, so there's no problem here as such. Drag threshold, things seem to be alright. Only preview changes, that is also alright. Handle, move, interaction, set forward shape, we are definitely changing the set forward frame here. Forward frame check is inside, get bounding box and returns true or false. On the basis of that thing, we are just simply setting it here. Frames set forward ID is gonna be null. So even this doesn't end point. How can we calculate it without passing the end point? Endpoint is used for what? This is mainly used for checking the body shape. So interaction, we got the selected preview shapes. So we have all the selected ones. Then we got the group bounds of the selected shapes. We even have the frames, and now hovered. So frames dot find, this is wrong logic. Okay, interesting. Interaction of selected shape ID says the frame ID return false. Okay, this is where we are checking it. But even when we are checking it, we are passing the frame, we are getting the bounding box of the frame, and we already have the selected bounds. So yeah, we don't really need to do this, that is for sure. Using the bounds we can check, that's fine. And the question is that are the bounds actually being changed or not? So ultimately we are getting the previous shapes over here. They are going to be the selected previous shapes, and once they are on top of that, so the value actually changes. It returns just one single true value. That's okay. That is why frame is being used over here. So that is also right. This will set it to true. So this is not something that's causing the issue. So what is that next thing? So this interaction is being used over here. The type is equals to select. That's also fine. Only preview changes. So this is where interaction dot selector shape ID has the shape ID. That is fine. And shape dot type is not equals to frame. That is also good. In that case, that's gonna be undefined. It's gonna be this. This is also fine. So what am I missing now? Why is it so that just moving a frame makes it part of the frame? At least this is better. Don't clear frame ID unless you need to. This is the only line I'm unsure about. Okay, if this is only to prevent the renderer from treating the moving shapes as still belonging to their frame ID, that's okay. If you're not strictly, I'd leave frame ID alone until pointer up. No, this is fine. I want it to be like this. And handle your mouse frame. I like that you remove the parameter. As soon as we move it, it becomes the part of that. What am I missing? Frame ID is undefined. it actually becomes null. So if the frame ID is actually null over here, that simply means when we are moving, the frame ID is actually null. In that case, just a sec. As we start moving, that becomes true. It feels like that is Hmm. That was my problem, and that was the bug. Alrighty, the bug seems to be resolved right now. Finally, yaar. The check rule that I wrote, that was wrong itself. So that was problematic thing. Overall, it is done more than 80%. There are some extra things that we actually need to cover, but finally. Okay, we can create more. This is gonna be a group, so this is a group, this is, now they are part of those shapes itself, they are part of the frame, so whole group can be part of the frame. Again, it can be outside as well, so only this will work. Not only that, we can create another frame. So this is another frame, I can keep this frame inside that. A frame cannot be part of another frame, that's insane. I'll work on it so that it actually supports this, but so the base is ready. Now there's a lot to work on this as well. So let's just simply work on it. The first thing is that we have to, whenever we are setting the values, at the time we have to make sure that it is following the right sequence, otherwise it will not work. Again, I'll try to get it done soon. The move shape on pointer up, not pointer up. If there are new shapes that are added, they should be added at the top. That is the first thing. And so the shapes are definitely added at the top. The second thing is that whenever we are just simply moving them and the pointer up happens, I'm just simply gonna get it done by the AI, but let's see whether we actually need to do that or not. The thing that we have to focus on, that when we actually return over here, this logic is gonna be a bit more complex. So let me give this logic to the AI. Ultimately, what we want, that the shapes should always be over the frames. Write the logic in such a way so that shapes which belong that. We'll see if the logic is right or not. It's not like we cannot write it, but the thing is that things take time, and we've quite worked on it a lot more than we should have. If you are using the order of the shapes array as a user index like Excalidraw, then when shape is dropped into frame, it should be placed immediately after the frame or after the frame's existence is done. That way frame is drawn first and its contents are drawn on the top. A good approach is apply the moved positions. Update each moved shape's frame ID, rebuild the shape array so every frame is followed by its children. Here's one way to do it. So render shapes by frame. We'll get the result. Not a bad idea. It will work. Okay with this as well. So ultimately we have this whole rule over here, like it's all, everything is gonna be the same even till this particular point, frame.id. So frame.id, this last thing actually changes. So reorder shape by frame. So we have to just simply create a function that just simply reorders it, and as for this should actually be the next shapes. On pointer up. Alrighty. This is the function that it actually created. Let's see what this function does, but before even that, let's see whether it works or not. Try this thing out. That's another bug that okay, this is working, that's fine, but the another bug is that whenever we hover over all the shapes, they get just simply highlighted. So we have to stop it from happening. The shape, the frame that's actually being hovered, so probably we can have the frame ID over there as well. So what we can actually do, that is okay, let's see what this particular function does. Overall logic is same. We just simply pass the updated shape to the reorder shapes by frame, and this just simply reorders it. Let's see how this reordering is being done. So first of all, we just have a result and array and shapes that don't belong to the frame. So root shapes, shapes.filter, shapes.frame ID. So if shape.frame ID of course false, then it will come true. So if the shape doesn't have the frame ID, so that will come here, and they'll be probably at the top of all. So we have the root shapes. Apart from the root shapes, const shapes, root shapes, just a sec. From the shapes, shape.frame, we have to filter them, right? So if something shape.frame, if the shapes actually have the frame ID, that becomes true, so those should be filtered, but then we are making it false. So the shapes without the shapes that don't belong to any frame, that's right. So these shapes that do not really belong to any shape, so const shape root shapes, we are gonna get them, and we'll push them first of all. Once they are pushed, shape dot type not frame. Think about it. We wanna keep those shapes, I mean doesn't matter which shape that is. Shape dot type, if that's not equals to frame, then continue. If the shape dot type is actually equals to that, okay, fine. So shapes dot filter child, and get all its children, and once that is done, the result dot push children. Okay, makes sense. So what is actually happening over here, that is first of all we are getting all the shapes over here. They are the root shapes, in the sense shapes that do not belong to any frame. That simply means that again, a frame cannot be inside another frame right now. We will fix it later on. So but ultimately we are getting all the free shapes. Once we get all the free shapes, then we are looping through them. As we loop through them, so we just check whether, okay, in one of them is there any frame or not. Once we get the frame, so once we got the frame, we try to find the children of that. Once we found the children, after that, so first of all that particular shape is the frame is pushed, and after that all its children are pushed up, and then the result is simply returned from here. Okay, so this particular thing is done, but there is a issue, probably a big one. What if I want to keep one frame inside another? Then that gets problematic. A frame can itself have a frame ID, then a frame having a frame ID. So that is interesting. As of right now that's not supported, but probably we will support it later. How can we do it? A frame just having the frame ID of others. As per the logic that we've written so far, it doesn't really support that, but we have to support it. So the simplest way could be that get all the children. Now once you actually got those children again can have other frames in them. So it's gonna be like a loop over here, right? So we have to just simply keep running until the no children have the frame ID. No children have a frame shape in them. Customize it in such a way so that it supports multiple frames. It's just simply gonna run a while loop if I'm not wrong, and on the basis of the loop it's just simply gonna check. But let's see what's gonna happen. There's gonna be some kind of loop for sure. Reorder shape by this. Let's check this thing out. So what I'm actually gonna do, I'm gonna just simply replace this, but first of all let's check the logic. So shape children by frame, frame ID children. So we can actually get the, that is good thing, that we are actually creating a map over here. We'll have the frame ID, we'll have all the children related to them. So shape, once we actually loop through it, so children by, just a minute, the shape that I actually got, if it doesn't have the frame ID, we have to return from here. Think about it again, that's just a normal frame, that is right. But if it does have a frame ID, in that case I'm gonna get all the children which have the same frame ID. So children don't get shape.frame ID, and otherwise just empty. So if there are children here, then children dot push dot this. Just a minute, hang on. What it is doing, that it just simply runs this for loop. And what is the use of this particular for loop? The use of this for loop is to just children dot push, so push it here and then set it here. So children on frame id, so we have the frame id and we have the children. So ultimately what we are doing, once we loop through it, so we actually try to create an array, and if there are children that already exist there, so we just simply get them, otherwise we just simply get an empty array and then we push. Here we are. So after that what we do, we push the shapes in the children once we get them. So these are actually pushed inside this particular children array, and then we just have shape dot frame id and the children. But the thing is that at a time I can have only one, so the next time, oh, that's such a good logic here, that when it runs for the first time, there's gonna be an empty array. Okay, when it runs the second time, then there's gonna be already one children, so it will get there, then the remaining one is gonna be pushed, and then it's gonna be saved again, then it will just simply keep doing the job. What's gonna be the alternative? The alternative could be that keeping this particular array actually at the top and then pushing the shapes again and again, and then once that is, will it be a good idea? First of all, this is definitely right. What we are actually doing, that we are creating sort of a map, and once we have the map, so we first of all initialize it with an empty array, and after that we push it. Once we push it, we just simply save it here. After that, the next time we'll be getting the previous values, then we'll push, then save it, then get the previous values, push, and then save it, and this is how it just simply goes on. The same thing we did with the groups, but at that time I actually created a normal object. This is actually a better way, so later on I'm gonna be optimizing that particular formula. Going ahead, once we have the frames and there all the shapes, after that this is something that runs. So when this runs, so what we are doing, we are just simply looping through all the shapes. If it has the frame id, continue, that's just a normal if shape, you start with all the top level shapes. So if it has the frame id, at that time we have to just simply add it. So just a sec, adding means what? Result, where is the result? This is the result. So result dot push, we just simply push it there. Think about it, we have all the shapes, we are just simply getting the shape, and once we are getting the shape, first of all we are checking the frame id in the sense they belongs to some frames, but as of right now that does not, I mean, we just simply continue from here. That simply means we do not do anything, we just simply call add shape, and once this add shape is called, we push them, because we render them from the beginning only. So as we render them from the last, yeah, so the first one is actually gonna be at the top, from the beginning to the last. Result dot push, we just simply push it, so the shape is pushed. If this is a frame, append all of its children. Think, there can be frames as well. If there is a frame id, then skip that, as simple as that. But if there is a frame, I'm gonna be adding that. When I'm adding that, I'm gonna check if this is a frame, append all its children. So if that's not equals to frame, return from here, just pushing is enough. Otherwise, if that is a frame, I'm gonna just get all its children. Once I get all its children, I'm just simply gonna be appending those children as well. So child of children, add a shape. Not bad. So we are just simply getting the children, we are appending it. So first of all we are adding the frame, and then just after that we are adding the children as well, and this is how just simply getting done. Not bad actually. Interesting. Yeah, we'll do the job. So ultimately what we are doing, that first of all, by looping through it, we are actually creating a map. That's something that's going to be extremely important. Once that is done, then we are looping through all the shapes, and once looping through all the shapes, if that actually belongs to a shape, a frame, then we are skipping that, we are continuing from here. And if that is actually a frame, then we are just simply, or normal shape, so we are adding it. If that is a normal shape, we will be just simply pushing it. If that is actually a frame shape, in that case we will get all its children and we will append this. So first of all the main frame will be added, and just after that other children are gonna be added. So this way the frame will always be below the children. That's the only thing that's happening over here. Done, 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 done. Here we are. Now the only thing is that let's select the overall frame. Can one frame be inside other? It doesn't support it yet, so we have to just simply make it support that. But at the end of the day, let me reload it. Let's have one more. Actually create wrap them in a frame. When I actually create it directly at that time, what is happening by default, they are not clickable. That simply means when I'm creating it for the first time inside context menu, selected shape context menu, over here when I'm actually setting the shape for the first time, think about it, we have the frame, we are setting the frame, we have all the next shape, then we have the frame. What do we have to do? The frame that we have, that should always be this is not something I want. So what I want here, when I'm actually setting the shape, so at that time I want my frame to be at the end, at the end. Suppose I'm setting the frame to be at the end is not really the best way. So one thing we can do that this is the frame that we are creating. We already know the selected shapes. If selected has that, in that case the current shape and the frame ID is actually gonna be added. And here we have to just modify it a little bit. So first of all we are using a map here. What I have to do, I have to just simply get the selected shapes first of all. When it comes to this, so let's first of all get the selected shapes. Once we have the selected shapes, we are just simply gonna be modifying them. So we'll have the selected shapes, and we'll even have to get the other shapes, unselected ones. So this is how it's just simply gonna be going on. So that is fine. Yeah, that's gonna be all right. So these are gonna be selected shapes, and once we actually have them, so we'll filter the value. Once we are actually filtering the value, so at that time if selected has the ID, so at that time this is how it should actually be like. So array, yeah. Okay, it will always format it like this. So what I'm actually doing, the previous shapes that I actually have dot filter, I'm just simply getting the shape, and if selected has the shape ID, that simply means they are the selected ones, and const other shapes, previous shapes dot filter again. I'm gonna get the shape, and once I actually get the shape, so selected as shape dot ID, I wanna filter those shapes which selected doesn't have. So if selected doesn't have those shape IDs, then those are gonna be filtered. And then I'll just have other shapes over here. Frame is gonna be just here, and just after that selected shapes are gonna be here. Now the only thing is that it needs to be destructured, and this needs to be selected shapes, and that is it. So what we are doing, that whenever I'm creating a new frame, so at that time I'm making sure that the other things should always be at the bottom. The new frame that is being created, that should be over other shapes, and the shapes which belongs to the frame should be over that. So this is the overall structure that we have. So what is the benefit of it is that if I create this, now I'm actually able to select these shapes. This is the first thing. Then once we actually move it, we can actually move it outside, and then what the just selecting it. By default, those shapes are not really connected. So what have I missed right here? I missed that the selected shapes, they do not have the frame ID. So once I have the selected shapes dot map, I'm gonna get the shape. Once I get the shape, I'll make sure that I return I'll make sure that I return dot shape. What is the problem? Get rid of this, not this, this. What the hell? Now it should be working fine. This, and we are actually able to move them here and there. We are still able to move them here and there. Even if I keep it here, we are still able to move them. If I keep it outside, we are just able to move this. If I keep it inside again, we are able to move this. Now let's work on the another part. What is that? How long has it been anyway? Didn't really check this thing out. It's been 1 hour and 15 minutes. Interesting. So the next thing that we have to work on, that is saving the forward and the shape. Interesting, we are saving it. That is good. We are already doing that. So I'll go to the frame. We are gonna get the forward frame ID, and we have the shape. See, forward frame ID equals to shape dot ID. Then only this color should be there, otherwise the color should not be there, and that is it. So now again we are able to do this. We have to make some more changes, but let's get another frame. This is the another one that I have. This is the another frame that I have. Now if I get a circle, and if I hover over this, only this gets this changes the color. If I hover over this changes the color. If I keep inside this, I can move it, and if I keep inside this, I can move it, and this is how it just simply goes on. The next issue that is here, what if I actually this part is still not working, so we'll have to figure it out later. The next thing that I actually want to do, that is what's the next thing that we have to focus on? Yeah, so as soon as let me see how it works here. Excalidraw.com. Let's just simply get rid of this. Oh, come on, yaar. Alrighty, so let's draw a few things here. This is the first one. This is the another one. It actually has the white color. Mine does not. Okay, we'll do that. As soon as we move it, whenever the pointer up actually happens, it just simply changes the color. So that is something we have to work on next. On pointer up, we have to reset the value. So after moving it, pointer up, whether we do something or not, but the very first thing that we actually need to do over here, that is once I worked on this particular functionality, then I'll refactor the code, and once the code is actually refactored, after that I'm gonna implement the backend. It's been quite a long time. Set over frame ID, set over frame ID. Whenever the pointer up actually happens, at that time I'm just simply gonna set the frame ID to null. So what will happen now? That as long as we are just simply moving it, the color will be this. When we stop, the color will be back. Having said that, this color can definitely be better. I mean, and especially when we move, right? So it doesn't even seem to have some color. So what do we have to do now? I'm just gonna, again, I'm not in the mood of writing quite a lot of code on my own. So kahan gaya bhai? Just first of all, this thing, whenever we are drawing frame.js is here, we want to make it better, so let's do it. Give it to the AI and just simply ask it to just make it better. I don't know how it's gonna make it better, because it's good. Avoid reading from the GUI stand inside of drawing functions are much easier to test and reuse if they are pure. Avoid hard-coded colors. CTX restore only once. Don't polystroke. That's right. So, interesting. Actually, I'm just simply being asked to get the values directly in there. Okay, let's follow these suggestions. Go with this suggestion as well. So what it is actually telling me, the tolerance is gonna be here. That now I actually have to get the hover. Now boolean, that's bad. No, that's not really bad. So this particular thing is done, and now we have to just simply pass it here instead of just simply getting it from there. So when it comes to passing it, so let's go here. I need to pass the hovered shape, so it needs to be passed here. Hovered frame ID is gonna be equals to frame.id. If hovered frame ID that's equals to shape.id, in that case this should be done. But this problem, this is not here anymore, so we'll have to get it here. Hovered frame ID, that's gonna be here. So forward frame ID. Once we have it, let's keep it as an optional thing. What is an optional thing? Yeah, it is gonna be actually an optional thing. So this is gonna be an optional, and once this is an optional, so we can just simply go to the renderer. And this needs to be done, especially the color needs to change on the overlay level. When we hover something over it, the color needs to change on that level itself, scene level. So when the color is actually changing on the scene level, then that's problematic. Scene is being rendered over and over. That's fine as of right now. So scene, and now the thing is that we just simply hover over it. We just need to get the values directly. So when it comes to getting the values directly, so render scene, and we'll get hovered frame ID. Once we have the hovered frame ID, as we are rendering, we'll just simply be passing it from here. Hovered frame ID, hovered frame ID, hovered frame ID, null. So that is this can be null as well. Let's try this thing out. What is this now? Okay, let's see what have I done now. This seems to be alright. Because when we draw something directly over there, at that time it doesn't really become the part of that. So probably we have to implement this particular functionality as well, because as of right now this is not part of that. Now when we actually move it, then it becomes the part of that, and that's sort of fine as well. And as long as we don't really click here again, it will always be part of that. As for right now, this functionality itself is good. That's not bad either, right? We have to focus on this part. That is good, it's working as expected. Actually, I've done more than I expected from myself. I never expected to be able to implement these functionalities and all. So yeah, good. The only thing is that whenever I hover over a shape, all the shapes are actually gonna be rendered, and that's fine once it is alright. Should I do it or not, or should I skip it? Think about it. The color that is actually being changed there. So which one should be responsible for doing it, overlay or the renderer? If the shape is actually hovered, so I have the hovered frame ID, and once I have the hovered frame ID, then what if I skip this over here? So let me see. New set interaction. So this this is gonna be sort of like this. Let me dot dot dot. I'll even have the forward frame ID. Once I have that, skip shape ID can be null or something, and make sure that this exists. And let's see what's gonna happen now. That completely disappears, and frame, that particular frame is not being rendered on the okay, so it disappears from here. That is fine. Once it actually disappears, as we move, we are invalidating both, right? Whenever we move, at that time we need to invalidate the overlay, of course, and while moving we don't need to invalidate scene. Scene should still remain the same. So yeah, it's better to do it right here. So when it comes to this preview shapes, it gets all the shapes over here. So that's equals to the interaction dot preview shapes, so it just simply gets all those shapes. But the thing is that I even want my frame to be here, so why isn't okay, we are not passing the hover shape over here, and that is why. Let's see, hover shape, but hover the frame ID is not really here, so I can get it from here. Hopefully it will be able to just simply resolve this, and as expected, not really. It disappears, that is okay, but another one should appear. We are getting the interaction dot preview shapes. It will even contain the frames. We are not gonna be skipping anything, so over the frame ID, CLG preview shapes. Here we are. Okay, there is 157 number line, 157 number line. There is just the diamond in there. So the problem is here that this preview shape doesn't really contain the value of the frame itself. That is insane that we do not have the value of the frame. That simply means we are not storing the frame in the preview shapes. This preview shape, it doesn't have the value of the frame. Why? Preview shapes are the selected ones, right? All the selected shapes are the preview shapes. Let's see. So when it comes to the preview shapes, so whenever we hover over something, What am I missing here? Why? What value do we have in preview shapes? Preview shapes are what? On pointer move, and then selected shape IDs can be there. That is it. So ultimately preview shape is the combination of selected shapes. That is it. And that's the problem, because whenever I hover over that, preview shape doesn't really contain the frame ID because that's not selected, and that becomes problematic. So in that case, if we are just simply rendering the scene and changing it, so suppose even if I'm rendering it using overlay, that simply means whenever, as soon as I so whenever I'm rendering this here, right, so what is the consequence of it? What are the cons? So if I hover over the shape, this will re-render fine. It will not re-render because the shapes didn't really change. That's fine, okay with this. The previous method is great. As for just for changing the color, we will stick to the scene only, and the remaining changes are gonna be reflected using the overlay. That's the only difference is gonna be there. So if we are changing the color can directly be changed actually, so we don't even need to re-render it. That is something we have to keep in mind. So that will be okay. For the changing the color, we can just simply assign it here. Now the next thing is that this name, it increases and decreases. I have to make sure that it has the fixed size. So in that case, here we have it. It should the text dot font size, whatever we have it, at 100, it looks like this. It looks this much divided by scale. So it should be constant. So it always remains that much. That's what I actually wanted. And the next thing is that we have to change it. We have to change the border, that is this tolerance, and the width divided by scale, so that it always remains the same. So at least height is not, well, height is unexpectedly behaving, so let's just simply divide it by scale over here. And now doesn't matter what you do, the name size always remains the same. And one thing that we need to do, that is whenever we are checking, right, So where do we have the logic to check this? The logic for checking whether we are hovering the text or not. So that logic, this is the first thing. One of there's another thing. So whenever we just move the mouse, whenever just mouse move happens, at that time update selection hover. When it comes to this, is point in selected shape bounce. Update this if that is so. Get shape at position. That can be a frame. And this text inside text divided by scale. We don't have it here, but I need to have it. So the width and height, they need to be like this. So when it comes to getting the scale, suppose I have it, what is the issue? That's fine. A required parameter cannot be okay, that's fine. Let's just simply keep it like this. And I need to add a scale, so scale needs to be added here. Do we have a scale here? We don't really have a scale here. Interesting. So let's just simply add the scale as well. Scale. Once we have this, so I'm gonna be passing it here if it's needed to be passed. That is it inside the shape. So get point in shape, ultimately get position at shape. This is actually being used where? Interesting. So what is the benefit of doing this? It's actually being used at many places. The benefit is that now doesn't matter where you hover, it will always be selected in spite of its width and height, right? That's what I wanted. So ultimately the name, the font size of the name or the size of the name, that will always remain the same in spite of the font size that you have. So that will always be that much. It's actually changing a little bit. So ultimately height is changing. So when it comes to the height, So this is where we are just simply checking this scale divided by, that's fine. Shapes, we are just simply checking it, and if I actually go to this over here, height in negative divided by scale, so that will always remain the same, but the tolerance tolerance is problematic. So how about keeping both the same? So divided by the scale, so that will not work. That so how can we fix this? Width remains the same. Y text dot width divided by text dot height. Height should be negative, so height always remains that much only, if I'm not wrong. Yeah, height actually increases. So the problem is not in the height. Stroke dot rect, the text actually goes away, so the Y is changing. So text name X and Y minus tolerance. So Y minus tolerance, so the tolerance that I actually have here, that's what I wanted. So even when we zoom, the tolerance actually remains the same, so I want the tolerance to be increasing and decreasing depending on the need. And so at least because of this thing, the name should be that. Now we even have to fix the logic of hit testing for the frame. So when it comes to this, so text width divided by scale, text height divided by even this tolerance. Now I need to check this thing. If I zoom it, this is just the tolerance of its. So tolerance always remains there, so that's fine. Even we want the tolerance, so wherever I'm actually adding the tolerance, this is it. This is the main problematic thing. So the tolerance, wherever we are adding the tolerance, we want that the tolerance should be increasing and decreasing based on the scale. That is something not happening right now. So now wherever I'm actually using the tolerance, divided by scale. Okay, I have the scale over here. Now this thing needs to be fixed up. So wherever I'm using the tolerance, I need to just simply make sure that that is what that is also dynamic as we increase, zoom in and zoom out and all. So this is the thing that we have to do. So divide tolerance by scale everywhere. So wherever we are using the tolerance, we have to just simply do this. So ultimately, what do we have to do? That we actually have tolerance at many places. So at the end of the day, we have to just do it one by one. Let me take a break for a while. After that, I'll be back, and then we'll refactor this, and then we'll not have to face this issue, the tolerance increasing exponentially, something like this. I'll be back soon.